This video is sponsored by Sakurako. So Boros has returned. No, this is not a drill. It's not clickbait. Boros has actually returned to One Punch Man. Well, in the One Punch Man webcomic. But this certainly means that he will be returning in the manga as well in a couple years. And I'll get to how Boros is coming back. It has something to do with Metal Knight, of course. And I know we talked about this many years ago on the channel, and I'll get into that stuff. But first, of course, I have to go over everything that has happened in this newest chapter of the webcomic, because it is by far one of the best chapters of the webcomic one has ever given us. So it starts off with us seeing a Mai Mask on the battleground where all the monsters and the robots have invaded. And he's transformed himself into like a civilian. He kind of looks like Destro, you know, one of the enforcers of the Neo Heroes, but I guess that's not who he is. I guess he's just a civilian. But a Mai Mask is able to do this because it turns out that he has like a full-blown like mimicry ability now. He can't just transform into like what we know, you know, a Mai Mask as and going into his monster form. He can transform into like anything, even like fictional characters. But a Mai Mask is walking around taking out robots and monsters that are lingering, and he's putting two and two together and realizing that like, why are the monsters and robots like conforming here? Until the Neo Bubbly Boys once again find that a Mai Mask is here, because we saw that they ran into him a couple chapters back when he had transformed into that Beetle Man thing, saving that kid and his grandmother, or his mother, I forget, but you know what I'm talking about. And considering that My Mask is like essentially the most wanted man in the world at this point, because, you know, his whole big transformation and him being a monster was broadcasted on the news. They've been wanting to take him in, and also, of course, they have previous beef and personal beef with him because they come from the same Handsome Castle agency that a My Mask came from, where the managers there were trying to groom them to become like the successors to a My Mask, essentially, like the new top idol heroes. So they go after a My Mask, and he's like totally cool with it. He's like, you know, a monster is a monster. If you found one it's natural to deal with it, I would have done the same. Like, he's just accepting his fate at this point. He doesn't even try to run or anything. He transforms back into like his My Mask form, and he's like, go ahead, take me away, do as you wish. Like, just fully accepting his fate here, continuing his crazy character development that he's been having. A My Mask, by far one of the most developed characters in the series. And they just beat the crap out of him. You know, of course, he's not fighting back. And they're like, you know, why don't you resist? And then they just stop and they pick him up and they're like, why are you a monster? You know, we wanted to be like you, super idols. And it's like, this is revealing their true intentions here and like their true emotions. Like, they do like a My Mask. They looked up to him. They wanted to be like him. But they're just insecurities and wanting to surpass him just got in the way. And they saw him as a threat. And they couldn't fully open themselves up to him. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of us have experienced this in our own lives. It's just, you know, natural for some people to be this way, to have like these conflicted emotions or whatever. But they come to their senses and they're like, you know, should we take him to the Neo Tower? They're like, no, we'll take him to the hospital. I think we went a little bit too far here. And as they're taking him away, suddenly their suits start to malfunction. And then they just kick a My Mask through like a phone pole. And he's like, whoa, this doesn't make sense. Never mind that they just started attacking me again, but I'm like the equivalent of a dragon level monster. And my ribs were shattered with a single kick. Like, their new power is on a completely different dimension than what it was before. And then they just immediately chase him into the building that they kicked him in, like speed blitzing him. And they like break the building in half. And My Mask's like, whoa, this situation has changed. It's like they've turned into monsters like me. And while he says that, he like transforms into like his true form, where I guess he could just unlock all of his power. And he's like, it has to be those suits. And it's like, was this their aim all along? And it's like, yeah, this was their quote unquote aim. The Neo Heroes, but more so the organization and Fuzzy who are pulling the strings. We knew that this was always going to be their plan because, you know, way back in the day, we figured out that the organization was pulling the strings in the first place, giving out all of these battle suits to the Neo Heroes. Also, My Mask asks, like, how many Neo Heroes are there right now in total? And a while back, we got a number from Child Emperor saying that there's about 2,000 of them. It was also revealed that that's when the suit taps into like the nerves and essentially the brain of the wearer. Like later on in this chapter, Excel says that the suits take over the nervous system. So it's not just like the suits can act autonomously while the person is like, stop moving, I'm not doing this. It's just taking them over completely, which is much different than what we saw before with the first instance of this happening when Suiryu was fighting Garo. Like, Suiryu was going against Garo, and then suddenly his suit just started fighting him without him wanting to. And he was like, I can't control it. But it didn't take over his mind at that point. But now we're seeing that the full takeover of this is both mind and body. And of course, like I was saying, this is the plan of the organization the whole entire time. And by proxy, God's plan, because God is the one pulling all the strings of everyone in the background. This is like his alternate path to taking over humanity. Aside from monsterization, he's doing it by using the Neo-Heroes and taking them over with these suits. Like a forced cyborgification without the surgery. Then we're cutting over to Puri Puri Prisoner with his prison gang, and they're taking out more robots and whatnot, and they run into Raiden Sumo buddies. And they decide to work together to have this plan where they're going to attack from two different sides to take out, the rest of the robots in this area. So this is more compliant than they've ever been before, because we saw before that Puri had fought Raiden before, but then Raiden kind of acknowledged Puri as like a true hero after he stood up to him. So they assumed that they were on good terms here, which seemingly they were, but once they take out more robots, Raiden just starts going after Puri Puri Prisoner and just mangles him. And this is, of course, because the suit has taken over Raiden. Just like we saw it took over the Neo Bubbly Boys. So it's like slowly starting here, the full true plan of the organization and the Neo Heroes, using these suits to take over everyone and making them much stronger. Because Amai said that, or kind of implied that the Neo Bubbly Boys were dragon level. I think they're like maybe B or C or something like that, not even A. So if just the lower ranking guys like that, with the full potential of the suits, can become dragon level, then a guy like Raiden, who was already just dragon level at base probably, is now, ascending to like high dragon or even above dragon at this point. And I also think this has something to do with the suits collecting data, because that was another purpose of the suits, to fight against the robots, and defeating them they gain more data to become stronger. So maybe they sent out like an iOS update or something, and that's how they were able to ascend everyone to dragon level. But it's possible that by the end of this arc we're gonna have like 2,000 dragons that everybody has to fight. But then we're cutting away from Puri and the prisoners fighting against the Raiden and his gang of sumo guys who have lost control, and we're cutting to Genos. So the last time we saw Genos, he was going after Metal Knight, because Drive Knight somehow found out where 3 of Metal Knight's bases were, and he went to one of them and kind of destroyed it, I guess, but Metal Knight wasn't there. So now I guess he's at the second base. And Metal Knight's not here either, because we saw that Child Emperor actually found where Metal Knight actually is, and they're like in a confrontation right now. So I guess he's at the third base, which I guess Genos will eventually come to. But he's at the second base right here, and he found Boros's, I guess you could say, corpse. He's kind of alive. He's in like a recovery chamber thing. And of course, Genos doesn't know who Boros is. No one surprisingly really knows who Boros is, because only Saitama was the one who encountered him. Like, Boros never had a chance to like leave the ship or go off of it. Like, Saitama killed him before he could do any of that stuff. The only alien that I think they really saw was Melzergard. And the little underling aliens who were like operating the ship and everything. And he's like, an abnormal energy reaction, impossible to estimate the disaster level. And this is hilarious. I think this is like an inside joke from One, because in the original data book, the One Punch Man Encyclopedia, when we would go through the character profiles, it would have like or at least the monsters or disasters, it would have like a rating for them. It would say like demon level, tiger level, dragon level, or whatever. But when we got to Boros, it said dragon or above, or whatever the translation is. I'm pretty sure it said Ryu Ijo, which like kind of means dragon or above dragon or whatever. That's where we got the term from. That level in between dragon and god. But going further, Genos is like an extremely powerful organism, is healing and regenerating. Is he going to release such a thing to the world? His brain activity has stopped completely. Is it just a living being deprived of its will and operated as a weapon? A pathetic being whose only purpose in life is to fight just like me. Genos is about to destroy Boros, but the Metal Knight drones come in to stop him. Now, this is incredible. Because like I said at the beginning of the video, we have been talking about this for literally over 5 years now. I personally have made at least 3 videos. The earliest going back to I think like September 2018. At least that's the furthest back I remember making something like that. Talking about Metal Knight bringing Boros back. And I came to this conclusion because Boros was seemingly killed by Saitama from the Serious Punch on top of his spaceship. And then the spaceship fell to the ground, and then the explosions happened, and we didn't see anything after that. And we knew that Metal Knight had taken Boros' ship and did something with it. I don't know, reverse engineered it to some extent. And I was thinking like, oh man, that would be so cool if Metal Knight found Boros' chewed up corpse and then brought him back. And I didn't really have a good explanation for it other than it would just be cool. Why not? But first, let's talk about the sponsor of this video, Sakurako. Sakurako is a monthly authentic Japanese snack subscription box. Sakurako is also supporting local Japanese snack makers because each box comes with 20 traditional, authentic, and artisan Japanese snacks, including Japanese tea and a special Japanese tableware. It also comes with this awesome booklet that gives you information on all of the snacks in the box, as well as information about Japan and its culture. This month's box is Valentine's Indulgence. Valentine's in Japan is not just about sweets. It's a celebration of shared connections, blending traditional and contemporary delights in a beautiful tale of love and unity. Indulge in the flavor through peach dorayaki, chocolate Danish, and mini heart arare. All pairs perfectly with their cocoa sencha tea. This month's tableware is Kiko plate or a firefly plate. I got the Kiko plate and I absolutely love it. It's so aesthetic and it's just the right size to hold these nice afternoon snacks. So first I tried the tea that we always get with Sakurako because it pairs with everything in the box. And this month it's cocoa sencha tea. So this was pretty interesting because it actually tastes like chocolate. I've never had tea like this before. And it was really nice. Then I tried the peach dorayaki. I really love these dorayakis. They have such a nice pillowy texture, along with the luscious white peach bean paste filling. Then I tried the ume renkan chips. These are some of the most unique snacks that you're probably ever going to try because these are lotus root chips that have like a salty plum seasoning to them. Then I tried the komachi adzuki pie. This has more of a flaky, crunchy exterior, but it also has that rich red bean paste filling, and it also really goes good with the tea too. So guys, if you're looking for the perfect Valentine's Day gift this year, get yourself or your loved one a Sakurako box. You can do that by checking the link in the description, and make sure you also use code Zhoniin for $5 off your first box. Thanks, guys. And even one of the videos that I made the thumbnail of Boros in like a Saiyan recovery capsule. Like, it matches up with this so well that like you would think that one is like watching my videos. Obviously he's not. One doesn't know who I am, guys. It would be cool if he did. I'd love to talk to him, but there's no chance that he watches my videos, so don't think that I think that. But I'm just glad that he did this because he's one of the few mangakas who is brave enough to take a swing like this. And that's why I love One so much. That's why he's my favorite mangaka among all of the, series I cover. I think he's the best. And I am just so happy that he brought Boros back here. But the thing that Geno says about brain activity has stopped completely, I don't know if Boros is alive or if he just has his body here, but I don't think this is just going nowhere. Obviously, one showed us this for a reason. It's because Boros is coming back in some way or another. But what I think is going to happen here is Drive Knight is going to obtain Boros' corpse here, and he's going to make Boros like the ultimate vessel of destruction, essentially. Like, I think this is where Saitama's big arc-ending fight is going to be. Like, when Genos is fighting Drive Knight at the end of this arc, or whoever he fights, I don't think he's going to defeat Drive Knight because Drive Knight needs to be like a major player at the end of in the final arc, but Saitama obviously has to have like a big arc-ending fight here. And what I think is going to happen here is Drive Knight and the organization are going to take Boros, or his body here, and they're going to soup him up with cyborgification, of course, and maybe give him some monsterization stuff or whatever. And it's possible that Fuzzy might even give him like artificial Esper abilities as well, you know, with the brain surgery. And then he's just like the ultimate being. Like he's a monster, a cyborg, and an Esper all at once. And even if they don't do that to Boros, I think that that will just be the end goal of a lot of the stronger opponents and adversaries, villains, going further into this series. Like they're going to be a monster, a cyborg, and an Esper all at once, because we found out that you can do this artificially. You just don't have to be born or inherently one of these things. You can be all three in theory, and I think that's what one is going towards here with the organization, the Monster Association, and Tsukuyomi, which I think Fuzzy is pulling the strings of. Even though Tsukuyomi isn't really a thing in the webcomic yet, but it will be revealed, I'm pretty sure. Because like I talked about in my previous review, one of Fuzzy's bodyguards had the stitch mark on his head, and we saw in the manga that the stitch mark is an indication of artificial Esper surgery. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking is going to happen with Boros here. Drive Knight and Fuzzy are going to get him. They're going to make him ultra powerful. It's even possible that they might even use that data that Kuseno was copying from Saitama as he was sleeping. It's still not confirmed that the organization was able to steal that, but I assume that they had to, because it's not like one for just things like that to go nowhere. That happened for a reason, and it's very possible that they could put even Saitama's data into Boros here, and then we get the rematch where Saitama fights a way stronger version of Boros than what he originally fought. And then that's like his big, you know, Boros season 1 fight, his Orochi season 3 fight, and then his, you know, Awakened Garo, Cosmic Fear Garo fight. The next one will be Boros. And I originally thought that this was going to happen with Orochi, because I think that this will happen with Orochi in the manga, because, you know, Orochi doesn't exist in the webcomic, and we know that Drive Knight does have the Orochi cells in the manga continuity. So hopefully Boros just becomes a good guy in the manga continuity, you know, because I was hoping that he'd be resurrected as like a good guy, you know, like a babyface turn in the webcomic, but considering that he has no brain activity, I think that he's just going to be used as like a vessel for Drive Knight and Fuzzy at this point. But anyway, Genos immediately takes out the Metal Knight drones, and they do fire at Genos here, and they hit like behind him, but I don't think they're destroying the Boros capsule thing. Like I said, Boros, something will be used with him. One wouldn't just show us this for no reason. And we see that Genos is really like having an existential like mental crisis here. He's even punching himself in the face, trying to like erase these noisy thoughts, as he said. He's thinking about Saitama. He's thinking about what Drive Knight told him about Metal Knight being the ultimate evil here, the guy who created the Mad Cyborg to destroy his family and everything, the guy who killed Kuseno, even though it wasn't. But Genos is just so conflicted right here that he's like malfunctioning. And he goes to fly off, seemingly to the third Metal Knight base where Child Emperor is. And he's like, I must kill Metal Knight. So I guess that's the next stop for Genos' storyline, which I'm really looking forward to. But then we're coming back to Axel with his group, the Hunters. And we see that they're the next victims of the suits taking over their hosts. And they start attacking Axel, because Axel isn't being taken over by the suit, because it turns out that Axel modified his own suit. And by doing this, he somehow avoided it being able to take over his nervous system. And another instance that we saw of this was the suit that they gave to Moomin Rider. They said that they had modified it with certain specifications for him. So hopefully the suit doesn't take over Moomin Rider, and Moomin Rider is able to stay as like a good guy, because that would be so tragic if Moomin Rider is taken over and then like everybody has to fight like evil Moomin Rider. I hope that he just stays a good guy and stays ultra powerful with the suit, and he can help everybody fight against the Neo Heroes who have been taken over by these suits. But it also looks like Axel is having his full babyface turn here. I mean, he was like heel light before, more conflicted, but now I'm pretty sure that he's going to be one of the remaining good guys here to take on the Neo Heroes. Then we're coming to the final part of this chapter here, where we see Blue, the son of Blast. And he's going through the robots still, seeing all the wreckage and everything, still trying to mitigate and take care of much as he can. But then he starts seeing it just raining robot bodies, and explosions and impacts happening, and something moving super fast all around him. He can't even keep up with it until he suddenly sees Saitama's freaking fist in his face, because Saitama has been out here just taking care of robots at his own leisure, just making it rain robots, because obviously Saitama is that strong. And Saitama, just in the midst of taking care of all of these robots, runs into Blue coincidentally and almost winds up punching him in the face. Like Saitama just, and this is like rare for Saitama, like he wasn't even aware that Blue was there until the very last second, and he's able to move his punch around under Blue, but he still runs into him and just levels Blue, just sends him through the city, like into a building. And Saitama's like shocked by this and even admits to like, oh man, I messed up. And like, that's how powerful Saitama is. Like, him just running into you is just devastating, because obviously if he punched Blue here, he probably would have like vaporized him or like splattered him everywhere. So now Blue is sent into this wall, and that's where the chapter ends, and we see the electricity around Blue's battle suit. So what I'm thinking is going to happen here is the suit is going to take over Blue for sure while he's unconscious, and it's going to unlock its full power, and it won't be strong enough to like fully challenge Saitama, of course, but it'll be strong enough to put up a fight, you know, similar to how Boros was, I guess, because Blue is seemingly the strongest Neo hero, and his suit seems to be stronger than the rest of their suits. So now we're going to see the full potential of Blue, or at least the full potential that the suit can bring out of him. And I also think this would be a great way to introduce Blast finally, because Blast hasn't been fully introduced into the webcomic yet. We've only seen him in flashbacks. So if Saitama winds up like knocking out Blue or something, or fighting him to the point of where it catches the attention of Blast, Blast can show up and be like, hey, that's my son, you know, stop doing that. And then we can finally get the massive Hunter x Hunter style exposition dump from Blast about all of the god stuff, the cubes, and this could also maybe introduce how Boros' race fits in everything, because we saw in the manga's continuity that one of Blast's team members of like his Guardians of the Galaxy or whatever is coming from Boros' race. So I would love it if one was just able to tie everything together here, because we need to get introduced to God soon, because we've only seen God, I think, once or twice in the webcomic continuity. First, when he reveals himself to Homeless Emperor and gives him the abilities, and then when he takes Homeless Emperor's life. Like, that's the only time we've seen him so far, or even mentioned. So hopefully all of that comes together here. Really looking forward to seeing Saitama versus Blue, and then what happens with Boros, of course. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments, and if you liked the video, guys, please give it a like and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.